Well, that was ugly. Most disappointing loss of the season? It's hard to say, right? Because there's been so many in only, what, 30 games. I'm sure you've seen the clip that has gone viral of Steph with a 1,000-yard stare sitting on the end of the bench as the game ended. He gets up slowly and he taps Clay on the leg and he walks into the locker room. Now, you can interpret that any way you want. Me, I thought to myself, like, hey, is Steph sending the bat signal to Joe Lacob? Was that the I've seen enough? Like, I've seen enough. I can't do this like this, not like this. Like, is he going to green light this roster? Something we've all been speculating and talking about really since the beginning of the season. This isn't enough. It ain't going down. I don't know. That's kind of my read on it. You know, Steph looks exhausted. He looks exhausted, and that's what I'll lead into is what's wrong with him, and Christmas Steph and all this. Early in the year, that first 10 or 12 games when he had all those 40-point explosions and he saved the day several times, I was pointing out in my breakdowns, I was like, yo, this is not a recipe for success to ask a 35-year-old Steph to cook like that. And it wasn't like, oh, he hit 10 threes, moving around. He was having to do a lot of dribbling and a lot of self-creation. And as fun as it is to watch, I felt like we were asking too much of him too early in the season. And now it feels like the well has run dry a little early, right? He's having to pay for that. And he looks fatigued. He does. There's no doubt about it. I think the other aspect of it is I heard a lot of people saying, why doesn't he get going initially? Why isn't he aggressive initially? Well, it seems to me, and I get that there's a little bit of a chicken and an egg element with this, that their focus is get Clay going, right? And let's feed Clay's ego and get him shots. And Clay comes out, man, he took like 5 of the first 6 shots, and he comes out in these games playing like it's NBA Jam. He's on fire. He's on fire. Well, he's not on fire. He's not on fire. And I don't want to put it all on Clay because, frankly, like in the second half when it felt like, all right, let's get Steph involved, it was back to Clay. And I think he was like, well, no one else is scoring. Like, I got it. Sometimes I think it's Steph with a lack of aggression that the symptom is Clay taking too many shots, right? Because we know he'll never pass up a shot. So I'm not putting it all on him, but I'm just pointing out that I think there is an element of them kind of focusing on getting Clay his shots. Steph falls back, and then there's all these, it's a domino effect. But ultimately, I would be lying if I said I didn't see this coming. I thought he was using too much energy. The way I put it on Twitter was he tapped the nitrous one too many times in the first 20 games of this season. Not at this age. Not at this age. I guess the other story is Jonathan Kuminga, Andrew Wiggins minutes. Right away, it was a disaster. Right away, it was a disaster. Kuminga's game last night, it almost reminded me of Purdy on Christmas Day, where, yeah, he made some bad decisions, right? But it kind of snowballed, and it was compounded by some good plays by the Heat. There was some bad luck involved in the 6 turnovers. He did create the 6 turnovers, and he didn't play well. That was clear. I thought it was interesting, his demeanor and how he handled it. I have no doubt in my mind that he felt a little added pressure after those comments. You saw my video on it. Everything, Dub Nation's talking about it, right? It's the hot button topic. Wiggins, Kuminga's role, Kerr. And when he came out and he made those comments, I think he felt a little added pressure. And so, 1 turnover, 2 turnovers. Now he's pressing. Now he's pressing a little hard, and you saw it snowball on him. But what was weird was his demeanor in how he kind of had this weird giggle and this weird smile about it. And, listen, whatever he's got to do to keep playing with confidence and shake it off, that's fine. I thought it was a little weird. I thought it was a little out of character, and it was kind of too cool for school attitude. But I credit Kerr for sticking with him and letting him kind of play out of it. And the other element of this is, listen, this is what the Heat do. Miami makes a lot of people look bad, and they take away what you like to do better than anybody else in the league. And you saw that zone really affect them throughout the game. Everyone, it's in vogue. It's a trendy thing to bounce in and out of different zones. But Miami play zone. They don't show zones, They play zone. There's a big difference in that and how connected they are and how they stab at passing lanes. And that really was our undoing in that second quarter with he and Wiggins. But I'm curious to see how Kaminga responds to this. But what I'm getting at is we can't just completely write this off because of this, because the Heat are a unique opponent. And again, it's still too small of a sample size, in my opinion. It may never work. Listen, Kerr and the staff may be right. Kaminga, Wiggins, they don't fit. It doesn't work. My point was they need to try to make it work more, give it more time, especially with Draymond and GP2 out, before they abandon it. And whose law is it? Whatever can go wrong will, right? That was kind of that last night in Miami. The other part of it was they pushed the ball, the pace, and this is a league-wide issue, transition defense, but I think particularly for us without Draymond and GP2, we don't communicate in transition. And when we get caught scrambling, it's a mess. And in that second half, it wasn't like Miami shot the lights out, right? They just played with more energy, more purpose, and they pushed the pace, and we got caught slipping in transition and in semi-transition the whole second half. But back to the big picture here for a second. Has Steph sent out the bat signal to Joe Lacob and Mike Dunleavy? Has he come to a conclusion where he's saying to himself, I don't have enough around me to get where I need to go. And so do what you got to do to put some better players around me. And then we bring it back to this Wiggins Kuminga discussion, both, either, or, who. Now, I'm of the belief, despite how poorly he played last night, if I had to choose, I would keep Kuminga, not only based off his ceiling, his youth and potential, but his competitive spirit. I think his competitive spirit is much greater than Andrew Wiggins, and I don't think that that's something that changes with a player. You don't teach competitive spirit. So, right now, currently, and I reserve the right to change my mind, like we all do. I know, when you're someone like me who has an audience, it's like you get killed for changing your mind. But right now, I feel like I would prefer to keep Kuminga and trade Wiggins, and that may be how they feel internally as well. However, in said deal or hypothetical trade, who they choose to trade and who they choose to keep, it may be what they're able to get in return. Like, we can get this for Wiggins, but in this deal over here for Kuminga, we can get this, right? And so it may not be who they necessarily like or believe in all the way moving forward. It may be the returning packages, and the difference in those might be part of that decision. I don't know. I don't have any answers for you, but that's just some food for thought on making that decision. But to me, right now, I just feel like I trust Kuminga's hunger of the game and competitive spirit more than Wiggins, even though, big picture, Wiggins is more of a proven commodity. I do want to talk about Trayce Jackson-Davis as well last night, because he got exposed a little bit too, right? And it's funny. It's like, careful what you ask for. We've all been clamoring for more of the young guys. And again, like clockwork, that you get more of them and then they start to get exposed a little bit. But again, this is part of the growing experience and the growth experience of these guys. Now, Trayce, he has to start finishing with one hand. If you notice, first off, he doesn't use his off right hand at all, but he really struggles to play the glass and use touch around the basket. And it's because he tries to finish with two hands all the time. Even when he's playing the glass, he's throwing it up there with two hands. I imagine it's a habit that he was taught at a young age, like, go up strong with two, Trayce. You're the biggest kid on the court. Go up with two strong and you're going to get to the line, right? But it limits how you can finish. And if you think about it, any hooper, if you think about it, you can't play the glass with two hands. You've got to take it off and finish with one hand. And so that's something that he's going to have to figure out here pretty quickly as he moves up the list on the scouting report. It's like, he only uses the left and it's with two hands. And so like KYP as well. You saw Kevin Love get the better of him, pump fake him off the 3-point line several times, draw a foul. He showed a little bit of growth there at the end where he can't always just completely sell out to the 3-point line. I love that he understands he's got to get out there and he moves well. But with that leaping ability, there's a give and a take. When he does jump, he completely takes himself out of the play. There's a way to contest and still stay in the play. But on the other end with Kevin Love, he was giving him far too much respect under the basket. You don't have to pump fake Kevin Love, just baptize him. just go up and baptize him. But again, in order to do that, he's got to be able to cock that back and finish with one hand. This was something that Kuminga struggled with his first 2 years, and you've seen him start to finish with one hand on either side. And so if he can figure that out, because he's got good hands and he's got big hands, I don't think that that's the issue. It's just muscle memory in the way he was brought up as a ball player. But yeah, man, it's just it's a bad loss. I don't got to tell you that, and not to make excuses, but I think there is a little bit of an asterisk. Like the Heat, this is kind of what they do, man. They show up at your court and they just make you. They get you out of pocket. The Heat get you out of pocket better than any team in the league, and then you have the combination of Steph and Clay not shooting well, and it just it's a bad loss. It's a bad loss. Back under 500. We've got the Mavericks Saturday night. Luka, is he going to 50 ball us? I don't know. We got to look at Derek Lively the second, who was a guy that I think a lot of us wanted. And listen, I'm the BP Hami Jaquez you saw last night. I guess I got to make note of him. Boy, he low key reminds me of Paul Pierce. I know that's a bit rich for people's taste. Like, whoa, 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 Hall of Famer. I'm just saying the built, the footwork, and just his playing style. He's shades of Paul Pierce there. But Lively Jr. is going to give us trouble. His bouncy length, and I expect to see Trace get more opportunity, because that's a bad matchup for Looney. And hey, it's a home at home away. It doesn't matter. They got to start racking up the wins here. They got to start racking up the wins. But I do think the biggest takeaway from last night, big picture, was that moment of Steph on the end of the bench in some sort of reflection of enough is enough. Now, maybe it was internal and he was thinking like, I can't come out with this little of energy and I've got to be better. Or maybe he's looking around at the locker room in this roster and he's saying, all right, Mike, start making some calls. As always, hit that like, share, and subscribe. I'm out, y'all.